My only rule is that you let me know your first name before you ask the question.
My name is Nancy, and again, I want to thank you for your very first veto, and I ask you if you would explain why you vetoed that bill.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it. I am proud that the first bill that I signed was the American Civics Act. The first veto that I stamped was that I was opposed to animal cruelty. And so it was a bill. There may have been some good intentions there, because I do think there's a difference between my pet golden retriever named Woody that I have at home and a farm animal. But this one had no distinction between that, and I thought it could be a slippery slope towards animal cruelty. So I vetoed the bill, and I appreciate your gratitude for that.
My name is Eddie, and I'd like to know, would you ever consider sending the National Guard down by our borders?
Hi, Eddie. Thank you for the question. I will do everything I can under law as governor to protect the state of Arizona. So I do have say over our National Guard. Okay? I want to do things in a fiscally responsible way. So where I would start is we have an incredible force on the Department of Public Safety. It's a $300 million expense line on our budget. I want to partner with our county sheriffs and our county prosecutors. There was a lot of talk during the campaign around border security, and it became a large issue. There's both immigration. I think of these things in three different pots. One is immigration, which is very much a federal issue. I have my own opinion on that. I'm a fan of legal immigration, but I also believe we're a rule of law country. Border security is a federal issue to a large degree, but public safety is a state issue. So as governor, I want to use all of our assets properly aligned so that we can have the most secure border possible. And where I'm beginning that focus is on really the bad guys, the drug cartels, the human traffickers that are coming through a porous border. So know that that's something I'm focused on with the assets I have under my charge as governor. You saw it in this budget, as brutal as the budget was, and we did need to make some reductions in some very popular areas. We protected public safety, and we'll continue to do that going forward and do our best on this border. Thank you.
My name is Kathy, and I'm a recent transplant from California, and I want to say, first of all, thank you for being a governor I can be proud of after 2 times having governor moving. My question has to do with higher education and the college, and I know that there's been a lot of ruckus over the cuts to public education in the college area. Recently, in a discussion with a gentleman who's been a college president in various colleges throughout the country, said that in Arizona, it's really not the problem that a lot of the people in the public believe it is, because there's apparently a lot of reserves in the college system that is in facilities and other areas, and I wanted to know what your thought about this was.
Okay, great question, Kathy. Welcome to America. Especially here in Yavapai County. We're happy to have you here. I want you to know that I'm a product. I'm the first in my family to graduate college. My dad was a cop. My mom was a waitress. It was a huge deal to my mom. Came out for my graduation, so much so that I used to wake up for years after with this recurring dream of, did I really graduate? Did I get enough hours? I don't know if anybody else has ever had that. Kind of had that same recurring dream after the campaign. So I'm a huge fan of our university system. I'm a product of it. The reductions were not targeted at them because they were doing something wrong. In many ways, they're doing an immense amount right. And this isn't just, I'm grateful for the Sun Devil cloth here. This isn't just Arizona State University and U of A and NAU, it's also our community colleges. It was a financial issue. I had to remind some of my past professors at ASU that I studied finance. I mean, you taught me that the state needed to live within its means. I did read a recent article that talked about exactly what you're talking about the rise in administration and bureaucracy and overhead in our university system nationally. I have had a real close eye. My background in education is sitting on the state charter school board, being a trustee at Arizona State University, and being a member of the regional board for Teach for America. So I'm a product of education. I'm not an educational expert, but I am an education champion. I've said to the universities, I want to work with you. We have some phenomenal presidents of these universities. They want to explore models for a different type of pension program, taking charge of their own insurance and risk pools, and this will reduce their costs and provide more dollars to them. So I want to do that, but I also want to look at measurements, which I think we would see our universities in many ways shine compared to universities that are much older and more bureaucratic east of the Mississippi. But as the governor and as a member of the Arizona Board of Regents, I'll continue to focus on that, and we did put them in a position where we are asking them to do more with less from the state. But I want you to know that our universities in total dollars and total funding sources, those are federal dollars and tuition, even with the reductions from the state government, will have more money in their budget next year than they did last year. Okay, those are the facts. And I think as an elected leader and as members of this club, the facts are important. Sometimes you don't read that same fact in the paper or see it on the nightly news. So we're going to ask this idea of, I'm someone that believes in a more effective, more efficient government that's accountable to the taxpayers. Okay, and you can't say the word accountable without using the word count. Okay, so we're going to be counting those dollars. Thank you.
Hi, Governor Ducey. My name is Nora. And you know, you've worked incredibly, incredibly hard and kept an exhausting pace during your first 100 days in office, working hard for us Arizonans and our wonderful, beautiful state. But I gotta ask this question. What are you doing to have fun and stay balanced with your family?
Thank you, Nora. I meant what I said on the introduction. To me, my priorities are my faith and my family. So at the tougher moments, Angela will look at me and say, "You volunteered for this." So, you know, when I can carve out some time on the weekend to go to my kids' games and be on the sidelines, to me that's fun, that's rewarding to see that they're doing well. So we carve out Sunday, we go to church, we have a meal together. The great thing about being governor, you know, you'll notice I'm not spending a lot of time outside of our state. Okay? I mean, this is where my job is. So I left early, but I saw all my boys. Sometimes I kiss them while they're still sleeping. I see them, you know, I've got a senior and a sophomore, so even when I'm going to bed real late, I'm going to bed before they are. Okay? And, you know, my 5th grader still likes hanging out with me, and I take him on some of those trips. So I know that for this to be successful, that has to be successful. So I appreciate you saying it. I feel the energy and the positive comments and the prayers in the room. I'd ask that you keep them up, but not just for me, for my family. I'm grateful.
Yep.
Governor Dwight King.
I know you, Dwight.
I know you know me. First of all, we'd like to thank you for your leadership on the budget and your leadership on Common Core. First and foremost, absolutely. However, you did, according to my records, veto 18 bills, including HB 2176 and 2318, both land bills. When you were in Sedona during the campaign trail, you talked about Arizona sovereignty. And given the overreach of our federal government and these land bills, and in fact what was in the local newspaper yesterday about the BLM buying more property here, could you comment on why you want to study this more? It seems like a slam dunk to us.
Okay, great question, Dwight. I want to say just a couple things. You know, I believe in 3 separate and co-equal branches. Okay? So I want to say this in all kindness to the legislators here. But they sent me 344 bills. Okay? I didn't veto 18, I vetoed 20. And sometimes I wonder why we're sending so many bills up to the governor. But, like I said, I will not be like our current president. This is the role of the legislature, and so I worked very hard with them, and there were 20 bills that I had an issue with. I share your same concern on this land issue, and it wasn't to study it more. That committee's to put a plan together. If you read some of this legislation, and we've all seen the unintended consequences from legislation that's passed in a session and attacks a small percentage of one issue. This is a big issue, okay? 14% of our state is private land, okay? The rest is either owned by the state or by the federal government. The overwhelming majority of it is. If you look at a map of America, you'll see the eastern United States is overwhelmingly private. The people own that land. If you look at the western side of the United States, you'll see that it's incredibly public. 70% of our land is the federal government or the tribal communities. So I do think there's a better way to do this. I think it should be in concert with our state land as well. We have 8 million acres of state land. This is the land that was, in essence, given to us by the federal government when we were enabled. As that land is sold, those proceeds come into the Treasurer's office to be managed into perpetuity. So not only is this a question of sovereignty, this is a question of solvency for our state. This is, if there are additional dollars needed, they're not in your pocket in terms of higher taxes, they're in better stewardship of our state and federal lands. So the idea of saying no to 2 bills, but saying yes to 1 bill is to put that plan together. Now I'm here, I'm 106 days in. I've got a 4-year one-time renewable contract. The renewing's up to you, but we're going to have to address this here in the first several years. That's why I said no to the 2 bills and said yes to the plan. Thank you, Dwayne.
Well, hello, Governor. It's good to see you again. I'm Barry.
Hi, Barry. Good to see you.
And first of all, I just wanted to say that we moved here, or actually made the decision to move to Arizona in 2012. On that visit, we met the good ladies of Republican Women's of Prescott. My wife informed me that she'd signed us up as members. We were living in California at the time, and I told my wife that we had to get out of California because it was so toxic. You couldn't even find anybody to talk to. So we decided we wanted to move to Arizona, and Prescott was our choice. Now, in doing the research to come here, we looked at everything, our costs, taxes, property taxes, land values, and all this kind of stuff. And boy, by the time we got here, we realized that we were saving money hand over fist moving to Arizona, except for one thing, and that was new car registration fees. Now, I was shocked to find out that the cost of my registration fee on my 1-year-old car was more in Arizona than it was in California. So, my question to you, Governor, what can we do about this? There's a lot of us that are senior citizens, and we like to drive a new car. So, can you help us out with it?
Well, Barry, again, I want to say to all the Californians, welcome to Arizona. We're happy to have you here. We did get through this first budget, And we did look at several different ways in handling vehicle license tax and some things that we think would be better. I am one of those leaders that would rather under-promise and over-deliver. So it's a tough budget situation. My commitment to the people that elected me has been that I will not raise your taxes. And I enacted not only the adjustment, inflation adjustment to income tax, but there were tax reforms that were moving through that we didn't stop. So we allowed that to keep Arizona friendlier, more business friendly, more welcoming. But before I commit to what we're going to do in next year's budget, realizing we just got out of this one, one thing I think we can do that'll be a better practice, and this is just really the force of how the dates work. You know, the primary ends August 24th, the general election ends November 4th, you're sworn into office on January 5th, you give the state of the state on January 12th, and you've got to present a budget on January 16th. Okay? Now, like Angelo said, you volunteered for this. And I feel we did that in the best possible, most responsible way, but now it's late April, and we've got until mid-January till the legislature comes back. So we're going to go through that budget even more thoughtfully, looking at better ideas and better reforms. At the same time, understanding that I do believe government's here to serve a purpose in terms of public safety, roads and bridges and infrastructure. And I do look at the vehicle licensing tax and those fees as something, as somebody who's a fiscal conservative, as a user pays. You have a car, well, this is what you pay to drive that car in addition to the gas taxes. So you have my commitment that we'll review it. I'm going to be looked to lowering the cost on Arizonans to keep it business friendly, but we'll likely have people that are driving cars be paying for the right to drive that car and to maintain our roads and bridges.
Hi, Governor Ducey. I'm Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
Nice to see you, and first of all, let me say that I'm very proud that you're our governor. We support you totally. And to follow up on an education question real quickly, my oldest son is a teacher, his wife is a teacher, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I think it's going to be, you're going to think exactly like I think. And that is that, are we finally going to get an educational system in this state that's not subservient to the federal government, in which the teachers can get the money they need to teach their classrooms and get rid of the bureaucracy that does nothing but cost us money, and get our kids educated in a way that will make them productive citizens of this country?
Thanks, Dennis, and I appreciate the concern around education. The themes of my campaign were our economy and education. And I don't think these are things that a governor can blame Washington, D.C. for. Of course, I want to see a greater economic climate across the country, but at the same time, some states have thrived over the last 6 years. One is Texas, okay? Education is a state responsibility. So I think it's time we take charge of that responsibility. Those of you in the room that are my age or older grew up in an America that was #1 in the world in K-12 education. So far and away, #1, we didn't know who #2 was. Okay, now we fast forward 4 short decades later, and we're not on any industrialized or developed nation's top 10 list. I think it's something we should find unacceptable as Americans, and the responsibility is to us as Arizonans. And as your governor, I want to have a hand in this. So you heard what I said about replacing Common Core. But it's more than that. Okay, it is higher standards in our schools. And I think we need to focus on that. Okay? We want to see a year of growth for a year of seat time. We want to see a child that knows how to read by the end of 3rd grade and not moving on to 4th grade until they can read. I often wonder, and we're coming up on graduation season, and we probably all have a child or a cousin or a friend or a nephew or a neighbor's child that's going to walk across that stage here in late May. And they're going to receive a piece of paper that says that they have an achievement. Now, many of them have achieved something. And I want you to know that our high schools in this county and across the state, many of them will graduate kids to the service academies, the honors colleges, and the Ivy Leagues. And some of them will be prepared for life and beyond. But some will have that same achievement that says that they graduated and they can't properly fill out a job application. They can't construct a paragraph. They don't know how to analyze numbers or to think critically. And so we just spent this huge investment, over $9,000 a year on them for the past 13 years, and we're likely going to have another investment in terms of taking care of them because they're not prepared to work. So I don't think there's any better focus of the governor and the citizens than on righting the ship in K-12 education. It's the best thing we can do for our universities. They have to remediate half the kids that get there that aren't prepared for that work. We have 230 school districts in the state of Arizona. We need more good people. We've got a lot of excellent teachers, and we've got a lot of excellent principals, and that's where it happens. And when we have leaders like Tim Carter, that you have here in Yavapai County, who I appointed, was one of my first appointments in the State Board of Education, you have people that know what it takes to drive this excellence through an education system. So I want you to know that it's a passion of mine. It'll be the biggest initiatives in our next session. And I think it's something we need to take charge of. And I'm also happy to be in an audience like this because I think sometimes I hear from people, hey, been there, done that. You know, my kids are through school. I don't want to talk about that anymore. This is what we need to talk about. And also symbolically, in terms of symbolism and substance, passing the American Civics Act. First thing, okay? Not partisan, patriotic. Knowing that our kids know the fundamentals about our history and our values. Now let's talk math, now let's talk English, now let's talk excellence. That's the plan.
Donna, we have 3 people standing. I think we have time for these 3 questions. Yes, yes. So you guys make it quick, okay?
Hi, Governor Ducey. My name is Mona Beckman, and I just wanted to ask you if you have any stance or plans for protecting our Second Amendment right in this state?
Well, hi Mona, thanks for being here. And absolutely. I mean, I think the Second Amendment is, of course, enshrined in our Constitution. But it's more than just the right to own a gun or to pass a rifle on down through the generations or to go skeet shooting. This is about our freedom, our self-defense, and our protection. And Arizona is a state that's been incredibly has been an advocate for the Second Amendment, and you're not going to see that change in any way during my administration.
Hello, Governor Ducey. My name is Emilio Navarrete, and I'm a college Republican at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. My question is in regards to ADOSH's fall protection safety standards. I was reading a couple of months ago that ADOSH had discrepancies within the fall protection safety standards with federal OSHA, and that they were threatening to get rid of ADOSH and impose their big government fall protection safety standards and the regulations within the state of Arizona. I was wondering what the current situation is.
Anthony, are you taking notes? Okay, I don't know. Okay, so I want to be straight up with you. We can do research on this, find out where we are, and I want to get you a credible answer. I've been on the campaign trail for a year. I've been your state treasurer for 4 years, and I don't know the answer to that. But let me get you the answer, and if you'll leave us with your email address, we'll get you an answer. Thank you, Nina.
I just want to make a quick comment. This young man is one of the best Embry-Riddle students and is an amazing college Republican. Yes, he is.
Hi, Governor. My name is Deb, and I'm on the Yavapai College Board of Governors. Thank you for continuing our funding for the Yavapai College and increasing it $330,000.
Thank you, Deb.
Now my question is, our administration is still asking for a tax increase because you might cut the funds next year. Your statement.
Okay, great question, Deb. And I want you to know we did look at, we're as thoughtful as possible around tough decisions. And there was protection out there to the best of our ability for the rural counties. So I appreciate you recognizing that. I don't know what the budget will look like a year from now. I don't know what the economy will look like. I have no desire to cut willy-nilly. I do have a desire to reform, to restructure, to reorganize, to allow these retirements that are happening and us to bring technology into government so we can let the dollars flow in the private sector and the services come from our government. So let's see where the budget stands 90 days from now. But our idea was that we made the tough decisions early and that they were permanent decisions, but they were also ones where we wouldn't have to come back and revisit the same issues in the budget that we had to 4 weeks ago. So I don't know what the future looks like, but the idea is this is a budget that's out here for this year. It does look like the economy's responding a bit. If we have good news, well, that'll be good news for everyone in this room and every entity that works with government. But if, God forbid, we have bad news and we have another downturn, well, then we'll even be happier that we did the tough things first, because the state will be in better position because of that. Okay, Deb?